everybody, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today's romance review marks the 8th episode in Boobies and Newbies' annual holiday special, The 12 Days of Boobsmas. And for the 8th day of Boobsmas, we're spicing things up with a very merry, kinky Christmas. All December long, we're celebrating the wonderful world of holiday romance books and giving away a few of our favorites along the way. Now, by the time this episode airs, we'll likely be wrapping up our final few Boobsmas giveaways, but the best way to find out if you can still enter and win is to follow us on social media at Boobies Podcast across the channels, except on TikTok, where you will find me at Real Kelly Ray. As our 6th podcast season comes to a close, keep in mind that Boobies and Newbies will return in 2023 after a short winter hiatus. And in the meantime, you can always catch up on past episodes, including the 12 Days of Boobsmas from years past, by listening on your favorite podcast app or on our website, boobiesandnewbies.com. I'd like to take a moment to shamelessly plug my own holiday novella, Meet Me in Los Feliz. You will find paperbacks and ebook copies available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and even a few local retailers. It's the perfect way to treat yourself or the romance reader in your life for the holiday season. Last but not least, if you feel like sharing a little extra holiday cheer this winter season, please consider leaving this podcasting elf a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and supporting Boobies and Newbies on Patreon. You will, of course, find links for all of the above in today's show notes. And now, on to today's Boobsmas read. Joining me today is the brain behind Biblio Lifestyle, the Epigraph Lit Festival, and the Couch is Booked podcast. Needless to say, books are her calling card. Please welcome Victoria.
Hi, Kelly. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm super excited.
I'm so excited to have you. I feel like this has been like a long time in the making, this podcast episode.
Absolutely. We're long overdue, but I'm so excited to be here and to be a part of Boobsmas. This is really exciting.
Yes, my favorite season of them all. You know, Cocktober is a close second, but Boobsmas takes the cake.
Yes. I'm leaning towards Boobsmas myself.
Well, clearly you have no shortage of bookish things that keep you busy. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about all of the cookie jars, so to speak, that you have your hand in.
Wow. Yes, you are absolutely right, Kelly. I do have a bit going on, but you know what? It keeps me going. It keeps me happy. And I'm just really excited to have any opportunity to engage with readers. So Hi, everyone. I'm Victoria. I'm from Biblio Lifestyle, just like Kelly said, and we're an online community, I like to say, for aspiring and avid readers, because ultimately I do believe books change lives, okay? I'm not saying everything we read has to change our lives, but I do think it helps to make us better, happier human beings. And for that reason, I really want to just get everyone into the reading community. So I help self-proclaimed non-readers, even though I do believe there's a reader in everyone. But I help these non-readers and aspiring readers to just start a reading habit, maintain their reading habit. And for us avid readers, help us to kind of really get more intentional and have fulfilling reading lives. So if you want to connect with me, in one way or another, the best way to do that is through my website, Biblio Lifestyle. It's the home for everything. You'll find reading tips, resources. Just like Kelly said, I do run a festival, biannual Epigraph Literary Festival. So that's another way for you to connect with me. You can also find me on my podcast as well. But if I had to say the best way for you to get started and, you know, just come on into my little world, I'd say take or what's your reader type quiz. This is for both aspiring or avid readers, newbies, whether you're reading one book, struggling to read a book, or you read hundreds of books. I think this quiz is a great entry point. You'll get to know what kind of reader you are, and you'll get more resources from my website, and then you'll be streamlined into my weekly newsletter. So, yeah, I have a bunch going on. Workshop coming up, 2023 reading goals and vision board workshop. So that's another
Ooh.
way. Yes, that's another way readers can really connect with me. I'm hosting that one January 10th, 2023. So, yeah, head on over to the website, navigate to workshops. We're going to help you define your reading goals, define your life goals, create game plans. We're going to make a vision board. It's going to be fun.
I love a good vision board. I usually do some sort of vision board for most starts of most years.
Yeah, I think they're incredibly helpful. I also think it's a great way for us to get in tune with ourselves, find
Hmm.
out what we really want to do, and just ask those big questions. Because I think it's really easy to just say, new year, new me, I want to do this, but we often don't make any plans.
Right.
So I think when you come to the workshop, again, I'm inviting everyone listening, come to the workshop. When you come to the workshop, it's a great way for you to say, okay, yes, I want to achieve this goal, but we're going to force you to kind of answer questions on how you can get there. Because again, everyone's journey is different, both your
Yeah.
reading journey, your life journey, it's different. But the questions, I think, they're foundational. So once you're able to kind of get clear on that, then you're saying, okay, we're putting this on the vision board, this is going to happen, or this might be a more longer term goal. But you can still put it on the vision board, but
Yeah, of
we're making
course.
actionable plans. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, my mom taught middle school for a very long time, and one of the things they talked about was SMART goals. And I think the A
Mm,
in SMART, because it was, an acronym for something, but I think the
yes.
A in SMART goals was actionable. And it was all about like,
Yes.
okay, we can make goals, but we also want to make sure that we're creating like ways to be able to like attain these goals that are like realistic. We have like a specific time frame in mind. Are you going
Mm-hmm.
to reward yourself in a certain way, like when you reach certain goals? Because I think that's important too. And yeah, I think it's super important. And that's something that you're right, you can absolutely apply to, your everyday life and also specifically your reading life as well.
Absolutely. And you're right, the A is achievable. My favorite letter is actually the first one, which is specific, because I
Mm,
find that most readers aren't really specific. And not to go too far back, but when we hosted the Epigraph Literary Festival, which, by the way, Kelly, thank you so much. Kelly hosted both romance panels, both for the inaugural festival in April and in the fall festival in September. So thank you so much. But the session I hosted was the book collecting session. And my first tip for book collectors is you need to be specific. I know it's super easy to just say, oh, yeah, I want to collect books, or you find yourself as an avid reader acquiring books. But when it comes to a collection, it's really not about consumption. It's about having a specific goal in mind. So
mm.
don't just say, oh, I want to collect classic literature. Let's get specific. Do you want to collect Victorian classics, Harlem Renaissance classics? Be very specific, because it can really help you to achieve that goal ultimately. And then you can start a new collection all over again. So my favorite is actually the first one. Let's get specific.
Yeah, that is important. There's obviously a ton of crossover between what you offer your readers and followers on Biblio Lifestyle and a lot of
Mhm.
like the goals that I set up for boobies and newbies when I first launched the podcast, because my entire intention was to introduce newbie romance readers to the genre that I love most. And I think as I've, done the podcasting and expanded on platforms over the last few years, something that's become important for me as well is the idea of intentional reading and making sure that you're being like a conscious, intentional reader and consumer of media and like knowing what it is that you're consuming, being able to analyze it in specific ways and have conversations about it and how it relates back to you and what you want, both in life and also just in what you're reading and or watching. So yeah, I think if there's people listening who, like this podcast, I think you'll love a lot of what Victoria is doing on all of her many different events and channels.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And thank you so much, Kelly. I get the same energy from you as well, especially because I still consider myself a novice romance reader, but we'll get into that shortly.
Well, let's talk about that because I mean, I know we've talked about romance a little bit, and like you said, I was so thankful to be part of both iterations of the Epigraph Literary Festival this past year. And let's talk about romance. And what's your experience been with reading romance?
If I'm being completely honest, I was a romance snob. I was the person who'd be like, who reads romance? You know, so most of
Mm-hmm.
my reading life, I didn't read romance. It's funny though, because I grew up with my paternal grandparents. They were big parts in my life. They also actually helped to cultivate my reading habit. You know, my dad's an avid reader, but I wouldn't say he cultivated that within me. It's more my mom, who's not so much of a reader, but she knew the importance of reading. So she cultivated that. But both my paternal grandparents, big readers. They had an extensive and vast, home collection of all kinds of books. And they kept books for many years. And my dad's sister read Mills and Boone. There were tons of them. There were
Mm.
so many Mills and Boone books in the house. And yeah, I never read any one of them. I just looked at it. I'm like, who reads this? Why was she reading this? It's just so beyond me. So for most of my life, I did not read romance. Now, I had a girlfriend. She was all about romance. She was trying to get me to read romance for years, and I would just still stick my nose up in the air. But I caved in. I was really digging deep. I actually went through my reading journals. I was like, when did I read romance for the first time? Now, I attempted several books, but the book I actually finished is a very recent book. So that's what I'm saying. I'm a novice. I'm still a newbie. But the book I finished from start to finish was The Hating Game by Sally Thorne.
Ah, got it.
Very recent. So, yeah, I was a romance snob. I gave that book a try. I was touch and go with a few others, but now I can say my diet has a healthy number of romance books in it, and I'm happy. I'm like, why did I stay away for so many years? Why did I don't know, maybe I felt it wasn't literary enough because that's what I gravitate towards.
I think that's what a lot of romance readers would say as well, is that what kind of prevented them from reading it from the start was not necessarily like their interest, but more of like what kind of society has told us about romance novels.
Absolutely, because I was that person. I mean, I'm obviously not now, but I was that person. There's certain books I would not read in public just because I didn't want, maybe someone passed a little snide remark or ask
Hmm.
about it or anything like that. So I was very particular. I would always have numerous books on the tap at any given time, but I was very careful of the books I'd read in public, and I think I cared more about what people thought I was reading. And for that reason, I think that's the reason I avoided romance.
Sure. No, and I think that is like I said, a very similar story that a lot of readers will tell you. So just know if you're listening and that's you, that's okay. Welcome to the club. We read bare chested man covers in public places now. So don't be ashamed. Read what you want. Make 2023, make that one of your reading goals for 2023 when you attend Victoria's workshop, that you want to read romance in public, and gosh darn it, you do it.
Yes, the romance trials are over. So,
The romance trials. I love that. So, what has your experience been with reading holiday romance?
oh, I absolutely love it. Now,
Love
I
it.
think I've gone three or so holidays in a row where I want to read that holiday romance.
Mm,
I also realized that, even though I would find comfort in some classics, now I look towards romance for that comfort. And I think during the
yeah.
holiday season, that's especially important because, I mean, even within myself, I have a good holiday holiday season to look forward to. However, it's not my ideal holiday setting. I would love to have my parents with me. I'd love to have my sister with me. I'd love to have my entire family with me, but that's not the case.
Sure.
I mentioned my paternal grandparents at the top of the podcast. They're no longer with us. And it's especially hard during the holiday season. I don't think, grief goes away. I think we just learn how to better deal with it. So I think during this time of year, sometimes I need that crutch. I need to know that everything's going to be okay. I don't need those thought-provoking books. I don't need to be questioning humanity, which I mean, we have to do that, yes, but just we need those breaks, Kelly. We need those
we already
breaks,
do
and
that
that's
on
where
a
I get it.
daily basis. So I think
Yes.
having just like a fun romance where people are, getting busy underneath the Christmas tree, great. Like that's all I'm looking for.
That's all I need. I want them to have fun. I want to have fun vicariously through them and just come out on the other side and say, yes,
Yes.
the world is okay.
And maybe want to bake. Maybe want to bake a little bit. Like, or at least like DoorDash some baked goods.
DoorDash some baked goods, take out your favorite jumper and just get cozy on the couch with your favorite beverage, your favorite meal, after all, and say, yeah, this is life.
Honestly, that is my life most of the time. And I am perfectly okay with it. Well, and since you brought up, some of my favorite holiday things to do, I do want to know from all of my guests this Boobsmas season, what is one of your favorite holiday traditions or memories?
I think it's a new tradition I started with my family, which is so we celebrate Christmas first and foremost, and I recognize we all celebrate differently or not at all. But for me personally, I love the idea of having a real Christmas tree because growing up, I never had that. So we like picking out our tree.
Yes.
I love the smell. It's very infectious, even though I am a delayed decorator. It usually takes me a week from getting a tree to actually get it going. But I love coming downstairs and just smelling the tree. It's so infectious. It makes me feel like the holidays are here. Same thing with the wreath. I purchase a real wreath. I'll put it on the front door. So every time I enter the house, I get a whiff. I get a whiff of the Christmas tree smell. And that is enough for me. Even when things aren't perfect, that's enough for me to be like, yes, the world is okay. Life is good, and just let's not worry too much about the details. So I think one tradition, it's fairly new for my adult self, but I love shopping for a Christmas tree.
I love that for you. And I will tell you, I'm with you. I'm a real tree person. Like I understand that like a fake tree is a lot more convenient for a lot of people. And I myself have a small fake tree that's in my apartment just because, otherwise it's a bit of a hassle, like bringing it up the stairs and taking it out a few weeks later. But that being said, I did go and buy a real wreath this year and I put it on my apartment front door. And I was like, well, this looks nice when I get home, but I'm also not really getting to appreciate it. So I moved it into my apartment. And now instead of having like a real yummy smelling Christmas tree, I have a real yummy smelling Christmas wreath. And I love to look at it.
Oh, that is such a great idea. I did that one year, by the way, where I brought my wreath inside and I was just like, because I want to see it. I don't get to see it enough, especially when I enter my house through the garage. I was like, no, I want to see it. But also, just in case, I don't know, because it's all different where we're located. However, the place where I buy my tree, they actually they divide their tent up in their area very nicely. And they had a section called small tree land, and then they had giant tree land.
That's adorable.
Yes, and the small tree land were like trees that were like 3 foot and under.
Yes.
So you could even just pop it on, your kitchen countertop or whatever works for you, just so you can have that smell.
I love that. No, and that's honestly, I will say someday when I am able to do so and I do purchase a small piece of property, whether it's a house, a condo, whatever, one of those things that is on like my house hunters must have list is I want the Christmas tree window. I do. I want that window that you can see from the street and see the tree and the sparkling lights, because it always makes me happy when I like am walking by somebody's place and I see their tree in the window. Like, I love to see it. So that is on my like obnoxious house hunters must have list, because we all secretly have one, whether we talk about it or not.
That is so true. That is so true. What I'm curious about though, Kelly, is what is your favorite holiday treat or like
Ooh.
beverage or just food item? That's what I'm curious about.
So I am definitely, I will say maybe not so much now. Like, I'm not as into like the pumpkin spice latte season now. I think it's gotten like a little too sweet for me over the years. But when like November, December rolls around, I love a peppermint beverage. So like peppermint hot
Mm.
chocolate, peppermint mocha. Usually I will host a holiday party and I will make what I call peppermint hot schnapple, which is just hot chocolate with peppermint schnapps. And I love it. I love the combination of peppermint and chocolate. And I know that there are a lot of people who don't like peppermint or anything mint, but I happen to love it. And I will treat it as a drink, or I will treat it as like a dessert.
Ooh, I love that it can go both ways.
Yes.
I gravitate towards beverages because for me, I think the only thing, and this is from childhood, every Christmas I have to have a ham. I'm a new American, let me just put it that way. New American, so new to all the traditions and everything. And I'm not used to Thanksgiving and turkey. So for me, it's like, okay, we have a big meal for Thanksgiving because
Hmm.
my husband's American. He's very into all these things. And for us, Thanksgiving is not even about the holiday it symbolizes. It's just more of an opportunity for family to get together in the States because it's a holiday here. So all his extended family, it's an opportunity for them to get together because odds are we can't all make it for Christmas. So it's like we get half the people in Thanksgiving, half the people in Christmas. So they want a turkey because, okay, yes. But then I'm like, I want a ham because for me, holidays is ham. So we've come to a compromise where they'll do a little ham for me at Thanksgiving because I'm like, I just don't do this turkey thing. But at Christmas, for me, it's always about the ham. So I want ham, cloves, pineapple, cherries.
Mm.
That has to be on my table for Christmas. And for beverages, I want all the holiday beverages. I want hot chocolate. I want eggnog.
Yep.
Actually, you know what's a very underrated thing? I don't know if you'll do that, but there's like this hot chocolate version where it's hot chocolate, chartreuse, and I think brandy. I think chartreuse
Oh.
and chocolate is a very underrated combination. If there's anyone listening and you're a cocktail connoisseur kind of thing, try some chartreuse, some hot chocolate, like you're making chocolate. So you get the cream, you get the chocolate, put some chartreuse in there, get some vanilla bean. And what else was I going to add? Apple brandy.
Apple brandy too. Wow.
Yes, I think it's a French concoction. Google French hot chocolate. I'm sure it will come up, but that combination is unique to them.
No, I love that. Honestly, Laura already told us in another Boobsmas episode about Puerto Rican eggnog. So I feel like I'm just getting schooled in all of these yummy holiday drinks that I need to add to what I'm making this year.
Yes, and the good news is, I mean, outside of the chartreuse, but odds are you have some of these ingredients in your house,
Yes.
so just give it a little, something extra, try new combinations. But yeah, I'm all about the holiday beverages,
Mm,
whiskey in the coffee or whatever you put in the coffee, Baileys. I just
yes.
love beverages, anything that's going to make me feel warm. Oh, buttered rum is so good.
Oh,
I'm a
yeah.
beverage gal.
Yeah.
I'm a beverage gal.
Well, it's because you can like, I feel like if you have like a piece of cake or something, you have to sit down and eat it. And with a drink, you can have it on the go. You can have it at a party. You can take it to work with you. Well, I mean, depending on what's in it. But, no, I totally get it. And honestly, that is the perfect segue into talking about today's read, because as we get into talking about this, I do have a little game we're going to play. And that also
Okay.
involves a few holiday drinks and treats. But first things first, I'll tell everybody that today we are discussing Jingle His Bells by Casey Rose. And this bite-sized erotic Christmas romance was published in November 2022. It's available on Amazon for $2.99, Kindle edition. It's also part of Casey Rose's Club Red Chicago series, though it can be read 100% as a standalone holiday novella. And let's be honest, I chose it completely based on the title, because how fun is it to just say Jingle His Bells? And any opportunity to do so, I will happily take. So that being said, let's play a quick little round of what I am calling tit or tat. And really, it's this or that would you rather, so don't get, too excited. So I have selected a lineup of goodies, things, treats, drinks, all of the above from today's reading. So I'm going to ask you, Victoria, to choose one or the other. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. We are going to start with leather or lace.
Ooh, I'm a lace girl.
Yeah. Okay. I see. They both have their benefits and they both have their time and place.
They do. But on a regular, lace for me.
Okay, fair enough. Now, in keeping with our discussion about holiday drinks, hot chocolate or hot cider?
Ooh, that is tough. Chocolate is comforting, so I'm going to go with chocolate.
Okay. Jingle bells or blue Christmas?
Oh, jingle bells.
Well, and they do a little something special with jingle bells in this book, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
They do.
Blindfolds or bondage?
Bondage.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know what? I will say, of all the things, blindfolds has never been something that's like really appealed to me personally.
No, I mean, I know it does it for some people, just, they're not able to see what's coming. But for me, I'd much rather be restrained.
Yeah, no, I agree. And do the restraining.
Yes. I'm happy to do that.
Oh, yeah. Here's something a little bit different, but this makes sense with the book, and that is city or suburbs?
Ooh. See, for a romance, and I know this might be unpopular, but for a romance, I actually prefer a city. Yeah. I don't like small town romances. I'm not saying I don't like the trope or the setting in general, but if I had to choose, I want a city romance. Like, city people need some love. And also, if it's going to be a holiday fling, you're going to want to do it in a city, not a suburb.
Girl, I am with you. You are speaking my language. There's a reason I wrote a holiday romance set in a city.
Yes, which is good, by the way. Read Los Feliz. Meet me in Los Feliz.
Thank you. Okay, how about a $1,000 dress or $10 sweatpants?
Sweatpants all day, every day.
I know. Me too. I'm sorry. I feel like I would also be way too concerned about spilling anything on a dress that nice and expensive.
That much. Exactly. I would just I'd be stressed out. First thing first, I'd probably have regret purchasing it because I'm that person. And then I'm like, okay, no, I made the purchase, live with it. Then I'm like, okay, well, I can only wear it one time. How many times can I wear it? How can I get my value out of this dress? No, I'd rather spend $10 on sweatpants.
Amen. Sugar cookies or gingerbread cookies?
Gingerbread. No sugar cookies. And if you're a housewife fan, no sprinkle cookies either. Gingerbread cookies.
Ooh, okay.
It's some Real Housewives of New Jersey shade. We're team no sprinkle cookies. If a housewife fan is listening, comment on this episode when Kelly posts it on social, because I know you know what I mean, okay?
That is so funny. And honestly, it is one of the only franchises that I haven't really gotten into watching, but because I hear so many people talk about it, especially in our reader group that we're both a part of, like I feel like I have to start watching just so I can get all the references.
So when we get off this podcast, you are going to go Google sprinkle cookies, Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Okay.
It's a whole thing. But the long and short is the sister-in-law brought sprinkle cookies for Christmas. You don't bring sprinkle cookies for Christmas, okay? You bring custom-made cookies, nice cookies, high-end cookies. Basically, Teresa didn't want any sprinkle cookies, and I'm team no sprinkle cookies at the holidays. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I'm you're right. I'm going to Google this immediately after we finish recording. Okay, I've got two more for you. One is a
Hmm.
public proposal or a private proposal.
Oh, definitely private because that's just my personality. And I remember when my husband proposed to me as well, he knew, don't take me to a restaurant. Like, I
Hmm.
don't want to be outside. I know it sounds awful, but it's just, I'm a private person. And by private, I don't mean secluded in a park somewhere or whatever. No. Private is 100% within our home, my home, your home, or our home if we're living together. But yeah, I'm private.
Yeah, and I will say I lean more towards private too, although I think I would be open to it being like we're, outside somewhere, but like still away from like prying
Mm,
eyes. Like, I know in
yeah.
Oregon, a major like proposal spot for a lot of people is like your favorite hiking spot, which will never be my
Yeah.
proposal because I fucking hate hiking. But I know several people who are like, oh yeah, he proposed to me on top of this hill that we like to hike to. I'm like, okay, well, good for you. But yeah, I do understand like it being, if it's of significance to you as a couple, like this particular place.
My husband proposed to me in the kitchen.
I love
I
it.
think I was cleaning, or I just got done.
I love it. That's fantastic.
But you know what's funny? The hypocrisy is I love reading about a grand gesture,
Ah,
like reading wise, but just don't do that to me. Don't do that to me because I will say no. I will be mad at you for the rest of my life.
I love it. Hey, you're honest and you know what you like. So that's all that
Yes.
matters. Okay, and here's your final one, which, is very on brand with this book, and that is watching a group of strangers have sex or having a group of strangers watch you have sex.
See, can I say both?
Yeah, it can just be everybody watching everybody have sex at the same time.
Yes, because when I was reading that scene, there was, he asked her, are you comfortable? Yes or no. And then the second time, it's, the same thing played itself out with a different response. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I was here for it. I was actually here for that last scene. I'm like, okay, you all have progressed. And what happens at the end of the book, I was like, okay, I did not see that coming either. Great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. So I feel like they both have their merits. So if you can put them
Yes,
together,
they do.
why not?
Yes. Exactly, exactly. So I'm team both on that last one.
Well, perfect. Well, let me go ahead and give everybody a brief synopsis for Jingle His Bells. And mind you, it is a very short book. I anticipate our discussion about it also being on the shorter end, which is fine because you've had, half an episode to listen to us talk about eats and treats for the holidays, which is never a bad thing. So here is the synopsis for Jingle His Bells. And after that, we will talk about the book. Here we go. We start from Emma's perspective. Emma, a relaxing Christmas back home with my boyfriend is what I was supposed to have. Instead, what I got was dumped just as I pulled into town. My best friend won't let me sit around and wallow all Christmas, so she takes me to Club Red, where of all people I run into my ex-boyfriend's brother. Only he isn't the Zion I know. He's more commanding, dominating, and sexy than the man I remember. Zion. I have wanted Emma for years, but my brother got to her first. When I find out he's been cheating on Emma, I see red. I need an escape, so I head to the one place where I don't have to pretend. I never expected to see Emma there. When I find out my brother dumped her, I know now is my chance to make her mine. I plan to show her a Club Red Christmas because the only present I want to unwrap under the Christmas tree this year is her. I appreciate it. Like I will say, when it comes to like holiday romance, the synopsis for me, the cheesier the better. The more holiday puns that they pack into that synopsis, the better. I, for one, love it.
So here's the funny thing. When you told me we're reading this book, I didn't read the synopsis. I just downloaded it and I dived straight in. So I have no comment on the synopsis. I'm hearing it for the very first time now. I was like, oh, wait, I just realized I didn't even read it.
Okay, well, perfect then. You came into it absolutely fresh, so I have to ask,
Yes.
overall impressions.
Overall impressions, I was pleased with it as a holiday novella. So it was short. It's definitely something you can finish in one sitting. I certainly could have, except I was like, oh no, I have to stop because I want my reactions to be fresh.
Yeah.
So it was super hard for me to stop because I wanted to know. I just wanted to keep going. So I was impressed with it. There's some things I would change,
Same.
but it really did it for me. It did it for me in that it was just a great thing I needed, and I slept well that night. Let me just say.
Well, and honestly, I think it accomplishes like everything it sets out to. Like it is called Jingle His Bells, an ex-boyfriend's brother Christmas romance. And we know that it's set
Hmm.
predominantly at a sex club because it's part of the Club Red Chicago series. Also, I am trash for anything that's set in Chicago because I lived there for 2 years. So I love to read
Hmm.
things that are set in Chicago. So I think it definitely accomplishes that. It is a short holiday romance with her
Yes.
ex-boyfriend's brother, and they have several scenes at the sex club. We also like progress beyond that because he, takes her out on
Hmm.
a date and makes it clear that like he's had a thing for her for a long time. So this isn't just like a holiday fling. It's not him just wanting to have, kinky, sexy times with her. Like he actually wants to be with her. So I did appreciate that. I will say, I think my major issue that I had with this book is like the pacing. And I know that it's quick. I know that it is a short book, but there were just several chapters where like they'd be getting into something, or like when they first hook up at the club the first night and
Yes.
he like fingers her until she orgasms, then it
Hmm.
just like ends. Like she just like leaves and it's like, oh yeah, the next day. And I just was like, what? I'm sorry, excuse me? And so I feel like there's a lot of focus on the erotic moments of this book, so much so that we kind of skip over what would normally follow in those erotic moments, like the in between. And I think that's kind of what I thought was missing from this book, was a lot of the, I want to see them, have a conversation. I want to see them like hang out. I want to see them like do a couple things outside of hooking up at the club. And we do get a couple of those moments, but I would have liked to have a little bit more of that and like live in those moments.
I 100% agree with you. Pacing was my main critique. I wanted, again, agreed with you. After the sex scenes, I wanted a bit more, especially because she set it up that way. Because what I actually appreciated was, I think even in the first section, and I'm here scrolling, he has this thing called aftercare, because I wanted to use the right
Mm-hmm.
word.
Yeah, aftercare.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciated that. So I was like, there could have been more built out through
Yeah.
aftercare. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
there could have been more conversation or comfort or observations of what's happening
Mm-hmm.
around them, even if they're not saying anything. So I agree. It just felt like, okay, sex scene, drop. Now she's leaving with her friend. Oh, you had a good time, and so on. I was just like, yeah, I wish, it could have done with just, two, three more pages in between
Right.
those parts as well. Same thing after they went out together, and then he invited her out again when she was at the mall. I wish there was just a bit more, but then I had to remind myself it's a novella.
Yeah. Well, and he, as far as like the representation for like this sort of like dom sub BDSM
Hmm.
relationship, like he's very big into aftercare. He's more than great when it comes to consent and like checking in and making sure
Yes.
she's good and she's using her safe words, and just kind of also telling her like, I'm going to do this now, and like just so you know, like moving forward I'm going to need you to use your safe words because I'm going to like go
Hmm.
go go. And so I thought that was great. I it just, I know it's a novella. It just, everything felt very rushed. Like I would have loved for this
Yeah.
to have been maybe 30 more pages long. And it just, and honestly on my Kindle, it comes in at 72 pages. So
Same.
it's very short. So I think if we had had like 20 to 30 extra pages, we could have taken time to build in those moments of them, you know, kind of exploring each other outside of I keep wanting to call it the Red Room because of 50 Shades of Grey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called Club Red. I will
Mm-hmm.
say, as a person who used to live in Chicago, I love that they go to the Christkindl market because that is something I used to
Oh,
go to every year when I lived in Chicago. I adore the Christkindl market. And she even mentions how he gives her a mug like that's missing from her collection.
yes.
And that is something that you do at the Christkindl market is if you get a holiday drink, they put it in their collector mug for the year. And I even have a
Ah.
display of the mugs that I have from the Christkindl market in my apartment.
That is so cool. See, one, I didn't know it was a real thing in
Yeah.
Chicago. I was just thinking about the mugs I get when I buy a Christmas tree because every year they have a new edition. And it's so funny because when I was making tea the other day, I pulled last year's mug because I just, just bought this tree, just got this mug. So when I was making tea for my husband, and I was like, "Hey, this is last year's mug. This is this year's mug," and he's like, "Ah," I'm like, "Yeah, I have like three more of these."
Yeah, it's so fun. I love, and again, it because I'm super greedy as a reader. I was like, "Oh God, I want to see more of the market. I want to see all these things they do at the market." And I
Yes,
understand like that doesn't have to be there. Although I will
yes.
say again later when he gives her this gift and it's a mug that was missing from her collection because apparently him and his douche canoe of a brother like broke it years past. I thought it was weird that like we were finding out that information as she was opening the mug. Like it wasn't even like a conversation that they had when they were at the Christkindl market. Like, "Oh, yeah, look, we got our mugs. Oh, remember when you broke my mug, 5 years
Mm-mm.
ago?" We didn't even have that conversation. So I think that was kind of the other thing that tied into the pacing with me was, and I'm talking about this, it's funny, we're recording this as I'm wrapping up a course that I'm teaching for the university that I work at, that I'm talking to my students about show not tell right now. And I did feel like there were a lot of things that were being told to us that I would have maybe preferred seeing them actually have conversations about in the story or mentioning even in like their own personal narration. And the mug was the one that I thought of.
See, I'm of two minds because I agree with you 100%. However, for me, it signaled he had remembered, so she never had to tell him. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
yes.
So I know that's what the author was going for, but I agree with the delivery. I don't necessarily agree with the way it was presented to us.
Yes, I know what you mean exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So that's my only thing. And honestly, I think my other critique of the book is I wish it had a different title. See, after reading it, I was like, why wasn't this called Christmas Club Red Christmas? A Club Red Christmas, you know?
Yeah.
You meet a person at Club Red because that's where they met. I mean, granted, they knew each other before, but the book, I mean, their introduction was at Club Red. It
Mhm.
ended at Club Red.
Mhm.
I was just like, they should have.
Red should have been
I,
in the title, like 100%. Like the word
yes,
red should have
yes,
somehow been in the title.
100%. And I was saying this should be a Club Red Christmas because when you were reading the summary of the book, he said he planned to show her a Club Red Christmas.
Mhm.
So I'm like, yes, this should be a Club Red Christmas. He told her to wear red when he was inviting her to the demonstration. One year later, she's wearing red when they go to the party. You know, she's a proper member now and everything.
Yeah.
So there should have been a Club Red Christmas because I never got enough from the Jingle Bell Room
Yeah.
or the
No.
Bell Room or
I'm
whatever they call
I'm
it.
with you. In fact, I think they called the Christmas event at the club have a red Christmas, and I was like, "Great. That could be the
Hmm.
title too." Like I'm with you in that. I was like, I love a good punny title, so obviously Jingle His Bells like had me
Sure,
intrigued, but the and it's not even necessarily that I expect there to be like a ton of bells, but there is one scene
I know.
near the end where they do go to that holiday party and there's bells I think they describe it as like bells are all over the room. They're hanging off of nipple clamps.
Yeah.
They're
Yes.
decorating vibrators. And I was like, well, this is
Hmm.
great, but it's one paragraph. It's one paragraph that describes
Yeah.
this scene. So again, I just wanted more. I think what was here was really fun, but I wanted more. I wanted more of the characters. I wanted more of the scene. I did think it was really weird that as it's funny I say it's weird because like I appreciate his honesty, but I think it's really weird
Hmm.
that Zion tells his dad like about the sex club.
I know. I was just like, man, something is wrong with me and my parents because we could not have that conversation. We didn't even have the birds and the bees conversation. Okay, we had nothing, zero zilch. It was up to the school and that was it. So when I read about parents and children having like this open line of communication
Yeah.
about their sex lives, let's be clear, sex lives, I was just like, whoa. Clearly, I'm still in the Stone Ages.
No, I'm with you, honestly. Well, and here's the thing. Like my mom and I have like a really great relationship, and like we share
Hmm.
romance novels. We talk about some of like, certain things that are in these romance novels, but I'm just like I could see me telling my mom like, "Oh, I hooked up with this guy," but I can't necessarily see myself being like, "Yes, I took this guy to this sex club that I am a member of, and we
Hmm.
did a scene there and had sex and I tied her up." I'm just like,
No.
I feel like look, and I love people being honest and open, and I love characters who have like these great relationships with their families, because I feel like we don't see enough of those in the
Hmm.
stories we read. But
Hmm.
that just breaches a new level of openness that I, for one,
Yeah.
don't know if I'm okay with.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I'm just like, okay, clearly I'm still in the Stone Ages, but I think it made it interesting because I also recognized reading he needed a sounding board because Emma has Kayla. I think Kayla is her name.
Yes.
Emma has Kayla. I guess he has his dad because he doesn't have a good relationship with his brother, which that was apparent.
And that's the reason I think that his dad is his sounding board, is
Yes.
because his brother sucks.
Exactly, 100%. So for that reason, I'll give it a pass. I'll also say, so this is what I found super enjoyable, or this is where I get my escapism. It wasn't just Club Red itself, which in itself is escapism, would be escapism for some readers. For me, it was reading about being dumped via text because I dated
Mm,
before this whole internet situation. And it's like when I often talk to my girlfriends about, like online dating or whatever, it's just something I don't know how to navigate because I never had to. So it's like when I read about someone breaking up over text, I'm like, oh my God, that is awful. And then bringing a new girlfriend to Christmas or holiday dinner, whatever you celebrate, I was just like,
mm-hmm.
okay. So it's just kind of, getting all of that was quite interesting, and that the whole
Right.
family, the whole neighborhood, because that's the impression I got, they all kind of gather
Yeah.
for this holiday gatherings. That was quite interesting because no, I'm not used to that. I'm just used to us having family dinner
Yeah.
and whoever else we invite, that's that. But to kind of have like this neighborhood thing where you're passing
Mm-hmm.
through, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, everybody knows everybody, which is both good and bad. Oh, and can I just say, like, as far as him breaking up with her in a text,
Hmm.
that was like wild to me because she talks about how they've been dating since high school and she's like
That
now
part.
a senior in college. And I'm just like thinking, okay, I understand that I think people who break up with people via text message in general, that sucks. Like, but usually it's not somebody you've been in a relationship with for years. For like, this is the person who not only you've been with for years, this was like your first girlfriend, the first person you had sex with, like the first love of your life. And I'm just thinking, you ended it in a text? That's insane to me. Like, that is sociopath behavior.
Yeah, but I was also kind of happy with the way things ended for them because I was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
But oh, I just remembered too. I love reading. So the fact that Emma ended up with Zion, which is her ex-boyfriend's brother, I love those tropes. I love ex anything tropes. So I was here for that, what do you call it now? So ex-boyfriend's brother, ex-boyfriend's father,
Mm-hmm.
ex-boyfriend's sister, cousin, whatever. Keep it in the family. I am here for that.
Keep it in the family. Well, and so I haven't read any of the other Club Red books, but
Mhm.
from this one, and I do know that at the end of this one, Casey Rose does mention that Kayla has a book, or Kayla has a book that's coming out. So that's
Right.
exciting. However, I kind of have an idea of who the other books might be about in this series, because one of the
Ooh.
scenes when they're at the sex club, she points out to Zion, she's like, is this weird that, like, we're doing this because you're my ex-boyfriend's brother? And he's like, well, let me point out a couple other couples to you.
Ooh,
And he points out
yes.
one couple where I think it is like an ex-boyfriend's dad that's now with
Hmm.
the girl that was his son's girlfriend. And I forget the other relationship, but I think it was something similar. And so
So yes, it was a dad whose daughter's best friend. So he's with the
yes.
daughter's best friend, something like that.
So I'm assuming
Yeah.
those are probably other books in the series. And granted, I haven't done a deep dive to investigate, but I just was like thinking,
Okay.
oh, this seems like that perfect holiday novella an author writes to be like, okay, look, I'm introducing you to a new couple. However, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you might see a little bit of the previous books couples that like you've read, you adore. And because I know as a reader, that's something that I love, is being able to like point to, specific characters that I'm already familiar with from an
Hmm.
author's previous books. And not everybody can do that, because like if you're like us and you're coming in fresh and you're just meeting these characters for the first time, great. But I think it is something that a lot of authors do, especially in holiday romances, and that's kind of my guess about what about who those characters were.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. I didn't think about it. I was just focused on the end. She's like, well, here's Kayla's story, here's whatever. But
Yes.
I'm intrigued. I guess my question is, would you read another Club Red novel
You know,
or
I
novella?
I think I would. I definitely want to look into to see what the length is for the other books,
Hmm.
because I want to see what a novel looks like from Casey Rose. Like I kind of am curious about maybe getting something a little longer. So if there
Same.
is a longer book in the series, I think I will be more inclined to read it than another bite-sized novella like this. And I love novellas, but I just feel like I didn't get like as much development as like I wanted, and so maybe a longer story would allow for that.
Agreed. I want to see what a novel is like as well.
Yeah. Well, we will have to check it out and see if we can find one from her. But in the meantime, did you have a favorite steamy scene that you maybe wanted to share?
I don't know if this is steamy or not, but the part that really did it for me, let me see. I made a one flag. Oh, so I remember you mentioned earlier just about him taking care with her
Mm,
using safe words and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's like I laughed. It's that's what I'm saying. Like it's not necessarily like say a super sexy
go
scene,
for
but
it.
I'm gonna read it anyway. So when he says to her, "You remember your safe words?" he asks again. I nod, just like a traffic light. Pretty easy to remember. I was like dead. Because
It just goes to show like their different levels of like kinkiness. Like he's just like,
yes,
let's talk about safe words. And she's like, yeah, it's like a traffic light, red, yellow, green.
I know. It's just like when I read that line, I died. And then, it goes through, there's like a couple more paragraphs after that. And then he checks in on her again. So he checks in on her again and it starts, yes, I'm still green, I tell him, and he smirks. He
Mm,
reaches over and straps both of my hands to the cross. I love me a St. Andrew's cross, I'm just saying.
yes.
Getting on his knees in front of me, he takes my legs and spreads each of them before strapping them to the cross. Then he runs his hands up the inside of my thighs where everything is on full display. If I had the ability, I know I'd be closing my legs right now. He smirks, almost as if he knows what I'm thinking. I like having you exposed just for me. You're so fucking beautiful. I'm like corny as hell, but I'm just like, I'm here for it. I am here for it.
Yeah.
I was just like, yes.
I appreciate it. And mine isn't like the sexiest scene either. Like, cause it's kind of, it's not like the most explicit. Like it's clear like what's going on, but like, it's not the most explicit description. So my scene comes from the very end. And this is like our epilogue year later moment, when they're back at the club. And I will start from here. Zion and I didn't play last year, but we decided to have a little fun in the bell room tonight because it's covered in bells, remember? He had my hands tied to the 4-poster bed behind me. I'm standing at the edge of the bed in my red bra and panty set he insisted I wear. He has one of the vibrators in my pussy, driving me absolutely crazy. Tonight, we're putting on a little show for anyone who wants to watch it. As a member of the club, I've become more and more confident, and we have been getting more public each time. So when he makes me come, I let myself go, giving myself over to it, and don't think about everyone watching. So I know it's short, and I will say, like, for a book that predominantly takes place at like a kink club, it's not the most explicit, kinkiest book I've ever read. Like, nowhere near. But yeah, I feel like this book almost focuses just as much on the aftercare, like, as it does on the actual sex scenes.
It does. But again, I think one of the things I appreciated was just the fact that he checks on her.
Yes.
I love that. I know the thing is, which is, I was like, oh my God, so corny. It was obvious he had feelings for her before. So it's just kind of like meeting a dom with such big feelings. It was nice. I gotta say, it was nice in a different kind of way.
That is the character trope that I want to see a lot more of in 2023 is the silent dom with big feelings.
Yes.
I can get on board with all of that. Well, let's go ahead and wrap up by giving this novella a few grades. And so normally we grade for heart, humor, and heat. However, I have added an extra rating for this season, and that is holiday. So we will be rating for heart, humor, heat, and holiday on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best that it could possibly be for you, of course. So let's start with heart. What do you think?
I think this one had heart, so I would give it a 7.
That's what I gave it to.
Yep, I think I'd give it a 7. I think it had heart. I actually think it had tons of potential. So, 7 for me.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe if his brother was less of a dick, it would have been higher.
Exactly. 100%.
How about the humor? Because, traffic lights.
I know. So, for the humor, I'm going to give it a 7 again, too, because, there were those moments. You know what it is? I know people think corny or, for me, eye rolling is a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing.
No, I agree. I'm here for, like, again, like I said, with the synopsis, like, I want the puns. I want all of the stupid Christmas references. Like, give me all of it. And so I didn't go quite as high, but I gave it like maybe like a 5.5, 6, because I do think there are those fun moments, but it kind of got me thinking. I'm like, you know what? I feel like most of the time when I read any sort of like BDSM or kinky romance, like it's very serious. It's very dark. And I just kept thinking, I'm like, where is like the kinky rom-com? Like, because I know here's the thing. I feel like, yes, I know we have like this dom sub relationship in a lot of like BDSM romance. However, I still think there can be humor. Like it kind of makes me wonder and want to challenge writers to think about like what a kinky BDSM relationship would look like in romance with a little more comedy.
You know what? I wasn't thinking about it like being like a rom-com. I mean, when I think about it, I'm like, I would definitely knock it down to a 5 or a 6, because I'm not expecting that. See, that's really what it is. I'm not
Yeah.
expecting it. However, it doesn't mean it's not possible. Because you're right. Like, I love a good rom-com. And I think it's possible. I just think we're not used to it. So maybe, yeah, this could be a great
Yes.
challenge to folks to add some humor into the mix.
Yeah, I'm going to think about that one because I really would love to see that. I mean, but I also am the person who's like requested a comedic mafia romance. So like I know I'm like, I want to see it. I don't know if it's possible, but like, I would love to see it. I don't know if I want to volunteer to write it. However, if somebody does write it, I'll read it.
I would read that. That would be fun. It's just like a comedy of errors. So it's like a mafia don, but
Yes.
it's like a comedy of errors. I remember my husband had me watch this movie one time. I don't mean to go off on a side note, but it's about a guy who's from a mafia family, but he's like a veterinarian or something. And he had to
I
come
love that.
in. Yeah, like he had to come in and help the family because, someone was either dying or dead or something. I don't remember
Yeah.
the FBI was coming after them, so he had to help throw them off. And I swear it was like a comedy of errors. So just make it romance, and you have that odd person in the
Yeah.
mafia family.
Exactly. So,
Possible.
I will keep putting it out there so hopefully it will manifest
Yes.
at some point. But
Yes.
anyway, how about Heat? What are we going to give this one on a scale of 1 to 10?
Okay, so this is where it falls off for me because I think, Heart was 7. I said the same for humor, although now thinking about it, it could have been more if we're trying to make it a rom-com. Where Heat's
Mhm.
concerned, I think that's where I was the most disappointed. So I would say that would probably be a 4 to 5.
Yeah, it's tricky because on the one hand, when I give Heat ratings on Boobies and Newbies, I automatically give a 5 to any
Hmm.
book that has an open door sex scene.
Yeah.
And in this book, you're talking about the fact that it takes
Open
place
club.
this is an open club sex scenes. Like, I mean, this is for
True.
all eyes, anybody who wants to watch. And so on the one hand, there's some voyeurism, there's some
Hmm.
toy play, there's some bondage,
Hmm.
but it's not necessarily the most descriptive or explicit. And so I
Yes.
guess my complaint is that when you say that you're going to read a sex club romance, you kind of have this very high expectation of like the level of heat that you're going to get out of it. And I feel like I didn't necessarily meet the expectations that I had. So I think I'm only going to give it a 6, which I
Hmm.
know kind of goes against some of the previous like reviews that I've done where there's some toy play, there's some, kink involved. Maybe I would bump it up to like a 6.5 because of that, but it's just not the most descriptive or explicit. So like I feel like I can't give it more.
I mean, on the open door policy, I would be like, okay, 5 to 6 instead of 4 to 5. But call me
Mm-hmm.
greedy. I wanted more. I wanted
Yeah.
more.
It's a sex club. I'm like, okay, you talk about how this room is decorated in bells. I'm like, then put the bell nipple clamps on her nipples. Like, have
Yes.
him banging her while her nipples are like dingling or, like ringling, jingling. Like, I mean, like,
Or,
I feel like there's just so much more.
he could get a cock ring with some bells. So that's
Yes.
belling, and she has nipple clamps with bells. Like, that's what I'm saying. It goes back to what I was saying. Like, the thing I was most critical of was the title because I'm expecting bell action and bell play. Because when they introduce the bell room first, before they actually use the bell room, because here's the thing. She introduced us to the bell room when they met at the club that first time, like he was giving her a tour.
Yeah.
Then the book ends with them actually utilizing, or not utilizing, being in the bell room, but
But
not
not using
util.
bells.
Thank you. So no, you are not jingling his bells. I am sorry. This should be a Club Red Christmas. I live and die on that title hill.
Also, like, just the concept of bell play as opposed to ball play has me in tears. Or, put them together. Like,
Put
whatever.
them together. That's what I'm saying. Cockering with bells, and the bells are hanging near the ball. So you're having ball play, you'll have bell play too. And just like
Bell ball play.
bell ball play.
Okay. How about holiday rating?
On the holiday rating, I'm going to give it a 7. I felt the Christmas vibe.
Yeah.
He took her to the holiday market. There were holiday mugs. They were in the kitchen doing holiday things. They were at the mall shopping on holidays. Again, do I want more description? Sure. But there were holiday elements. So, yes.
That's the same reason I'm only going to give it a 7, because I feel like had I seen them doing all of these things like all the time, I would have given it higher. But a lot of the times it was hearing about, oh, she's in the kitchen baking cookies, or, oh, we did this activity yesterday. Like, I want to see it actually happen. Yes. I don't want to be told about what has already happened.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
But like I said, and like you said, I feel like we would both be interested in potentially reading more from this author, maybe in the Club Red Chicago series, especially if we get like a little more.
I want more. And, I think I'm going to actually sign up for an alternate ending. I'm team alternate title still, but...
Club Red Christmas. We are putting the petition out so that everyone can sign it as well.
100%.
Well, thank you so much for joining me for the 8th day of Boobsmas to discuss this book.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Kelly. It's been an absolute blast, and never have I ever laughed as much as I've done today in this podcast episode. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. I hope the holiday season jingles your bells.
I hope they do.
And I guess in the meantime, there's nothing left for us to do except to say, on the 8th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 8 rock hard abs.
On the 8th day of Boobsmas, my lover gave to me 8 rock hard abs, 7 minutes in heaven, 6 billionaires, 5 penis rings, 4 dukes of football.